Alright, so what I'd like to do first is I'd like to show you guys some common mistakes that are made with the deadlift. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that you wanna keep your back nice and straight, but a lot of people don't really realize that. A lot of people don't even really have the ability to do that at first. Their brain just does not know how to tell their back muscles to arch. It's a foreign movement to them. They have to learn the movement pattern through repetition and practice. And I'm going to show you what it looks like when somebody does not know how to arch their back. So they'll come up, they'll set up, they'll have their back rounded. You can see that my back is rounded. They might even start with a little bit of an arch, a nice straighter back. And when they lift, they're going to shoot their hips up first, let their back round, and then pull the bar up, and then straighten up. Come back down, restart. Hips go up first, back follows, and then they straighten it up. Come back down. Now, you can see that there's a problem with that. And the problem is that it creates a lot of excess stress between the vertebrae. You basically want your vertebrae to be parallel with each other. When you get a lot of bend and a lot of stress, it creates that stress where those vertebrae smash together. And you definitely don't want that. Rounding the back contributes to that. So aiming to keep a nice arch, a straighter back position is really key. It's really best for long-term health of your spine. Now, one thing that I see a lot of too is some people really like to get the excessive lockout. So they'll hit their rep, come up, and just excessively lock it out. And that's really not necessary, because that's actually going to put excess stress on the vertebrae too. It's not an excess round, but it's an excess arch. And that's just not necessary. The point is that I push my butt back and I squeeze my butt forward and just make sure that my glutes are flexed, my back is tight, but it's not an excessive hip thrust. It's not necessary. You shouldn't do that. So that would be an example of how not to do the deadlift, and that's just how not to do that very top portion. No excessive locking out and no excessive rounding of the spine. As far as other things that people do wrong, some people just don't understand that the upper body has to lean over when you do a deadlift. And if they don't understand that, their deadlift is going to look like this. So, a lot of times they'll get the bar up, and it's probably not going to look pretty when they get it up, but then they'll really try to keep their back vertical, and they get into more of this position here. Now, what they do there is they lose a lot of power because they're bending their knees excessively. So they'll really try to keep their back vertical, and they end up pushing their knees out a lot, losing a lot of hip drive. They put the focus on the quads, and that's just not what the deadlift is about. So this is an example of how not to do a deadlift. And if they're really drastic about it, you might even see them lift their heels up and then drive up like that. And you don't really see that too often. It's horrible, but people do it. And if you do that yourself, really take this video to heart. Sacrifice the ego, lower the weight, start back with good, proper form. So once again, let's hit some good reps and finish up this tutorial. Alright, so now I'd just like to line up the barbell, take you through my thoughts when I perform deadlifts and really just translate those thoughts to you guys so you can have that same thought process that helps you hit correct form on your barbell conventional deadlifts. So first things first, you want to have a fairly narrow stance. We're not doing a sumo deadlift, so we want to have a fairly narrow stance. Most typical barbells are going to have two smooth portions. You can see those right in the middle there, two smooth portions. And that's where your shins are going to go. You really don't want the rough part of the bar scraping up your shins. So you're going to take those smooth portions, put them on your shins. You're going to roll the bar back to about the middle of your foot. So if you look at your foot, the bar is just straight up from the middle, okay? And I have that going on about right now. I'm just going to push my shins into the bar. I'm going to arch my back real hard. I'm pushing my butt back. You can see my back is straight. From here, I'm just driving my glutes forward, keeping my chest up, and just standing up. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to hold it in, and I'm going to push my hips back to get back down into the position. I'm going to try to keep my chest out and my shoulder blades back the entire time. And really focus on just pushing my body back into the movement, because the barbell deadlift is not about leaning forward, it's about pushing your butt back. So deep breath. Deep breath. Okay, now I'm pushing my butt back. Keeping my back straight. Now the thing is even though this is it's really lightweight, this is 55 pounds, it's still important to stay really tight, really flexed. So if you're really connected with the lift, you can definitely get some mind muscle connection going on, and you should be able to feel the muscles that are working because you're flexing them very hard. And that's one thing that's really important with any lift. You really want to be focused. You really want to think about the thoughts that you're supposed to think about. Don't think about what you're doing later that day. Think about the set that you're in at that moment, right now. So you're going to roll the bar back, push your butt back, and try to get those shoulders and hips rising and falling together. So I'm just going to start the movement at my hips, keep my back straight, drive up, squeeze my glutes forward to lock out the movement. Push back into it, aim to keep a straight back the entire time, lock it out. Now, one thing before closing, there's always really key tips that I'll throw out there as a trainer when I'm, face-to-face training a client. Key things that I say that you should always keep in mind is start the movement at the hips. Push your butt back as far as you can. Keep your back arched. You want a nice straight line or an arch. You don't want to get that rounding. Definitely keep your weight on your heels. You want your heels down at all times. There is no reason to lift your heels off the floor during a deadlift or during many other movements for that matter, but keep the heels down. Keep the eyes forward or look at something slightly above you. there's not a huge reason to look straight up. You don't really need to strain like that. The main point is that you don't look down, because when you look down, you automatically just tend to kind of round your shoulders forward, round that upper back over, and that's not something that you want to do during a deadlift. So eyes forward or a little bit up. Make sure that you take that deep breath at the top of the motion, hold it all the way to the bottom, and virtually hold it all the way to the top as well. Exchange your breath at the top of the lift. So you want to exhale at the top, a new deep breath, drop back down, hit your rep, holding your breath all the way through it, and exhale back at the top, and just repeat that process for every single rep. And those are really the basic key tips of the deadlift. Heels down, butt back, back straight or slightly arched, eyes forward or up, and then hold your breath through the movement, exchange breaths at the top of the motion. This has been the tutorial for the conventional barbell deadlift. If you have any other requests for new movements, feel free to make comments. Let me know if there's anything that I can do to improve these tutorials. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, and I hope this helps you out. I hope this improves your deadlifting experience, and most importantly, I hope it makes you get big, get strong, and get to where you want to be as far as your physique goes. Thanks again.